Bible Space Time.
I understand that God didn't create the information of sin, it is made by Satan. So, will God eventually get rid of the information of sin completely?
Yes. God didn't create the information of sin. Some people believe that because God created the concept of good, the opposite concept, the evil, was started naturally. But concept of good cannot create the concept of evil. If good can create evil, then it is not really good anymore.
But I think everything has an opposite concept.
What is the opposite word of apple?
Isn't it pear?
Then, how about the opposite concept of blue?
I think it is red.
No. Apple is not opposite object to pear, and the opposite color of blue is not red. They are just different.
There is no opposite thing of apple, and apple can exist without pear, so the concept of good also exists without the concept of evil.
If everything exists in this world as exact same color, then how would you like to name that color?
It is impossible to name the color, because we are not going to have a knowledge or concept of color.
Yes. Just like this, if there is only the concept of good, it is impossible to define the good as good. So it is also impossible to think of any opposite of good.
I see, that's why the name of the forbidden fruit was, the knowledge of good and evil.
Yes, Adam and Eve didn't know not only the concept of evil but also the concept of good. If there is only good, no evil, then the concept of good becomes invisible to us.
I see, that's why Bible said, He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain, for the old order of things has passed away.
Yes, the new heavens and the new earth will be like the world that God created in the beginning. There will be no more death and no more pain, and no more the concept of evil.
Wait a minute. Something is wrong. I thought there will be the hell, burning all these evil people forever. That means, there will be pain, or the concept of evil in the universe forever.
At the time of the judgment, God will punish the evil according to the amount of the sins. We are born under the limitation of time, so the amount of sins of the evil cannot accumulate endlessly, so the duration of the punishment will not be forever. And God is not going to keep the evil forever in this universe. Their existence means the existence of evil and pain. God said, "Then death and Hades were thrown into the lake of fire." Revelation chapter 20 verse 14. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and there was no longer any sea. Revelation chapter 21 verse 1. The hell will not exist in the new heaven and the new earth.
Could the concept of sin be mutated from something accidentally?
If God created everything in this universe, it is impossible for the sin accidentally appear in this universe, because God is omnipotent and omnipresent in time and space. God's creation is not based on probability. We use probability because we don't know the future and we cannot control everything perfectly, but God is omnipresent in time and space. God knows everything of the past, current and the future. There is nothing God cannot control.
Then why do many people believe that an everlasting hell could exist?
If you follow the assumption of physics, once an information started to exist, it cannot completely disappear. And if the information of sin cannot be deleted completely from this universe, there could be always a possibility of reappearing of sinners. Then, the hell of fire must go on forever to punish continually appearing sinners.
That is based on the assumption that God cannot get rid of the information of sin completely.
Yes. They believe that even God does not have power to delete existing information, and He cannot prevent the probability changing the world.
Christians believe that God is omnipotent, that God has power to destroy anything completely if He wants. Then, why do most Christians also believe that the punishment of hell is endless?
Christians know that God can make nothing to something, and also something to nothing. So the reason why they believe in that way is because they assume that God wants to have the hell forever.
Everybody living this fallen world only lives certain duration of time. Nobody has lived in sin forever. Why does God want to give everlasting punishment?
God does not want to give anybody everlasting punishment. Giving everlasting punishment is not something that even any evilest dictator of this world would think of.
I heard that there are several records about the existence of an eternal hell in the Bible.
Yes, there are several of them, but there are also records that are clearly indicating that hell is not an everlasting place, as quoted above. But most Christians decided to choose to believe only in that way by ignoring the other statement. Bible said death and Hades were thrown into the lake of fire, Revelation chapter 20 verse 14. This lake of fire will destroy sin and the results of sin, even the information of sin. So there will be no more information of sin and the results of sin in the new heaven and the earth, as it was when God created the heavens and the earth in the beginning. Jesus died for us to save us, not to make a reason to punish sinners forever. If God just destroyed Adam and Eve at the time when they sinned, there would be no other evil people lived in this world. But God gave us the second chance to be saved by giving us Jesus. If we don't accept the free gift of salvation, we will die just like God told Adam and Eve. But God did say, you must not eat fruit from the tree that is in the middle of the garden, and you must not touch it, or you will die. God didn't say that sinners will be punished forever, but he clearly said that sinners will die. It was Satan who said, you will not certainly die.
Isn't it normal to establish the law of punishment to keep the universe in order, just like we have law enforcement?
No. Everlasting peace does not require everlasting punishment. If God wanted to use the everlasting fire of hell as the law enforcement to keep the universe in order, God didn't need to hide the meaning of good and evil from the beginning, and didn't have to show us God's love through the sacrifice of Jesus.
But, in Revelation chapter 20 verse 10 clearly said that the evil will be tormented day and night forever and ever.
Do you believe that God can complete creating the endless universe in the beginning?
Yes. Even though according to our mathematical concept it is impossible to complete creating the endless universe in time, just like we cannot count the end of numbers, I believe that God can, without using any time, because God is Alpha and Omega, omnipresent in time and space.
Have you ever tried to explain that to your friends?
No, my friends do not even believe in God. How can I explain that God created the universe timelessly?
That's why Bible had to use the words, ever and ever, to make sure that we understand the destruction as the complete destruction. In our mathematical concept, God cannot complete creating an endless universe on a point of time. It has to be described as God created universe endlessly expanding. In our understanding of numbers, it is impossible to count the end, and that's why we believe that there is always a possibility of something to happen. We call it probability. That's why scientists cannot overcome the limitation of the probability. God knows all of these human limitations. God knows that we cannot understand the meaning of complete destruction to non-existent. During the World War's times, many cities were almost completely destroyed, but soon those cities were reconstructed again. So, in our understandings, nothing cannot be complete, and there is always a possibility of failing, complete destruction and reappearing of the evil. That's why God used the ongoing terminology, expressing the duration of destruction as a permanent progressive event, to make it sure for us that the evil will never be reappearing in the universe. If the duration of the destruction is localized on a specific time period, then we might understand that as a time-dependent event that could happen again and again, in terms of probability. But if it is described as timeless event, an event that does not have the start and end time, then even in our own assumption of probability, it is impossible for the evil to reappear, because for it to reappear, the destruction has to end first.
I see. That's why the same expression was used for Sodom and Gomorrah.
God is actually using numbers. If we start count up from 0, it is impossible to count 0 again because there is no end of numbers. So even in terms of probability, it is impossible to come back to 0.
Yes. So the expression, ever and ever, is very scientific way of explaining the complete destruction of the evil, and that's why on verse 6 the destruction was defined as second death, making confirmation that the destruction will be completed in time.
Thank you for watching Bible Space Time.